Hello everyone, and once again, I am a piece of bread, and this is the second part of my review of the Quark mod by Vazkey. And in this part, we are going to be looking at the new Redstone components as well as the new mobs added in the Quark mod. And this episode isn't going to be quite as long, but there is still a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get right into it. So the first item that we have here is the Redstone randomizer, and as the name might imply, this is just a randomizer circuit for redstone builds, and it's made of 3 smooth stone, 3 redstone torches, and an ender biotite, or coal if you have ender biotite disabled. And, well, yeah, this is exactly what it sounds like. When you give it a redstone pulse, it will randomly direct it to either the left or right output. And yeah, I mean, other than that, I think it's pretty much identical to a redstone comparator. It has no special options or right-click properties, and it's definitely a very useful piece, because otherwise you would have to if you wanted to make a randomization circuit, you would have to either capture a bat or a chicken with a pressure plate, but this just adds a single block that is completely random. So yeah, redstone randomizer. Okay, so next up we have the chute, and the chute is made of 6 wood in sort of a hopper shape, and of course the chute is just a reskin of the hopper, except with the top closed off. And what the chute does is, when it is provided with items through either a hopper or a dispenser or a dropper or some other input device, it will drop the items straight down through that center chute there, whether or not it has a redstone pulse. And I think it can be disabled if you give it a redstone pulse, but otherwise it will just drop straight down. And I mean, this is obviously really useful, so you don't have to use droppers anymore, which of course need a redstone circuit to drop items and also sort of just throw items all over the place. These just drop things straight down, and it is great if you want to automate things easier in vanilla. Next up, we have an interesting block known as the Ender Watcher. And what the Ender Watcher So next up we have the Ender Watcher, and what the Ender Watcher does is it emits a redstone pulse when a player is looking at it. So as you can see, it's made of 4 redstone with an ender eye in the center, and then 4 blocks of biotite in the corners. So pretty expensive, considering you can only get that stuff when you kill the Ender Dragon, but it's an extremely useful block, so it's definitely worth it. So let's take a look. If we just press this button a couple times, and then take a look at this, as you can see, the Ender Watcher activated the piston and launched the redstone up into the air. And that's another thing that should be mentioned. In the Quark mod, items are able to be pushed and pulled by pistons. So if you drop a bunch of redstone in there, and activate the piston, it will shoot the item straight up into the air. And this is interesting if you want to make a sort of a vanilla pipe system, I guess. And sticky pistons are also able to pull items. But anyway, back to the Ender Watcher. The Ender Watcher even works behind a painting, so it can be concealed into walls. And as well as behind banners and behind item frames. So this would make an sort of an interesting secret entrance that you could make by, you'd have to look at one specific painting, which would open a secret door where you could put your secret stash. And it's just not something that you could really do in the vanilla game nearly as easily, or at all, really. And it's also just a great looking block. I mean, it looks really creepy. So next up we have the Iron Rod, and the Iron Rod is made of 2 iron on top of an end rod, and there's a config to allow it to be made of just 3 iron, and all of the recipes in Quark are configurable, by the way. And as you can see, it's just basically a retexture of the end rod with an iron bar texture, and the iron rod does something kind of interesting. When you put it on a piston, like so, or a sticky piston, and the piston extends, it will break whatever block is in front of it. And obviously, this has huge implications on the game. So you could make a quarry using this, and by just putting one of these in the front of a flying machine, and you could have a quarry that doesn't need to use TNT. And you can also use it to just, you know, make an auto cobble generator like we have here. Now this is, you know, pretty high-tech stuff here, so I understand if most people aren't going to be able to do it, but it's still a definite possibility if you wanted. Although you couldn't actually make this on Skyblock because you can't get iron or redstone in vanilla Skyblock. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of pointless. But if you need a lot of stone for some sort of project and you just are too lazy to go mining, this is a definite thing you could use it for. Or, you know, really any type of item breaking. The only issue is that it cannot break blocks that pistons can't push. So as you can see, obsidian is not able to be destroyed by the iron rod. So you will still have to mine this by hand, but otherwise it can break literally any block in the game. And it's incredibly useful. I love this feature so much. Next up we have the weather detector, and the weather detector pretty much does what it says in the tin. It's made of 3 purpur slabs like this, 3 biotite in the middle, and then 3 glass on top. And it's, again, just a reskinned version of the daylight sensor with sort of a purplish, well, I mean, it's not purplish, it is just straight up purple. A purple texture, and it makes a nice decorative block if you want to, like, put it on top of an end build. But it's also obviously extremely functional, and, you know, you can right-click to change the detection state. And what it does, obviously, is that the weather detector will detect the weather. And if the weather detector is set up like this, it will measure if it's sunny and emit a redstone pulse. And if it's set up like this, it will measure if it's rainy, cloudy, or snowy and emit a redstone pulse. And this is obviously very useful and creative if you just want to, you know, get rid of the annoying rain. So that's what I have it set up for here. And in survival, it's not really as useful unless you just want to, you know, you live underground and you just want to know what the weather's like outside. But I'm sure you can still find use for it. We have the nether brick fence gate, and yeah, it's a nether brick fence gate. Nether brick fence gate, nether brick fence, nether brick fence, and you get a nether brick fence gate. Yeah. Then for our, well, sort of our final redstone thing, is the lit redstone lamp, and it's just a redstone torch and a redstone lamp. And it's just a redstone lamp that always glows and does not need a redstone pulse to be activated, and yeah, you can't deactivate it. But this is really useful because I really like the redstone lamp texture, and it's just annoying trying to figure out a way to power it in a small compact build. Yeah. Next up we have a tool that is pretty unique to the Quark mod, and it is the trowel. Next up we have a tool that is pretty unique to the Quark mod, and I'm sure it exists somewhere else, but it is the trowel, and it's made of a stick and 2 iron like that, so it's as expensive as an iron sword. And what it does is that the trowel will place random blocks from your hotbar when you right-click with it. So as you can see, it is taking the blocks, well, it's not taking the blocks from my hotbar because I'm being creative, but it is using the blocks that are in my hotbar to create a random pattern, and this can be used 256 times, which is not really a lot, but I think that's the same durability as an iron sword, so that makes sense. And this is just an absolutely fantastic item. It is extremely useful, obviously, for just making a randomly generated texture, especially if you're building like a castle or a path and you just want to add a bit of variety. The trowel is definitely the way to go, and it's not too expensive, so it's even useful in survival, and of course you can use it in creative. So yeah, it's a must-have for building, in my opinion. Next up we have the Pickerang, and yeah, the Pickerang is made of a heart of diamond, which is something that we will look at later, as well as two diamonds and 2 wooden planks. And the Pickerang is exactly what it sounds like. It's a throwable pickaxe. It has the same strength as a diamond pick, and it only mines 1 block at a time, but it's still pretty fast, so that's not really that big of a deal. And it, of course, mines blocks instantly, so it's extremely fast even without haste. And it also can be used as a weapon, although it only does 3 damage, so it's, you know, not fantastic. And it can be enchanted with all the normal pickaxe enchantments, except for efficiency, because it's already instant. And it can't be given any weapon enchantments, which is kind of a shame, because if this had sharpness, it would be an extremely useful weapon. And yeah, I mean, the Pickerang, it's mainly just a joke weapon. It's sort of useful, but it's not that much faster than a diamond pick, and it's way more expensive. But it is really just awesome. And for our final, god damn it. And for our final tool that we have the arrow variants. And the arrow variants are the torch arrow, the exploding arrow, and the end arrow. And these are just made by combining an arrow with a torch, 2 pieces of gunpowder, and an ender pearl, respectively. And from that, you can kind of, you know, imagine what they do. So first of all, the torch arrow will place a torch wherever the arrow hits, and it also does normal arrow damage. I think that's normal arrow damage, but I don't really know. Then we'll get back to the explosive arrow. Let's look at the end arrow first. So the end arrow is basically, I mean, it is literally just an ender pearl taped to an arrow. So it allows you to throw ender pearls way farther. Like, look, we almost got all the way over to the village. And you can teleport directly to enemies, which is nice. I wish it would teleport enemies to you. I feel like that would be pretty useful. But even as it is, it's a great tool for getting around, and it makes ender pearls a lot more worth the time to collect. And yeah, ender arrows, great. And of course, then there's the explosive arrow. And yeah, you know what the explosive arrow does. So over here, looks like we have a bunch of violent villager protesters. So let's see what the explosive arrow can do. So as you can see, it does a lot more damage to blocks than it does to entities. Oh, they're running. I mean, look, that only did 7 damage. So you're going to need a lot of these, but they're pretty cheap, just 2 gunpowder. And yeah, they're just awesome. They have quite a lot of range too. I don't want to fire over there because I have stuff there. So if you really just want to blow up your friend's house because you hate them, then this is definitely a good tool for that. Or if you want to terrorize some random innocent NPCs. So next we are moving on to the mobs that are added in the Quark mod. The first mob we're going to be looking at is the frog, and I mean, just look at that. Look at that model. Look at that texture. These things are the absolute chads of the Minecraft world, and I have no idea what they do. They're not on the wiki because they're a work in progress. I literally just found it in the Quark settings and enabled them. But I'm going to assume that they just hop around and sort of stare at you creepily. But when they killed, they drop frog legs, and these look absolutely delectable. I mean, look at those froggy toes. And these can be cooked into cooked frog legs. Yeah, I mean that's what happens when you cook stuff. And they only healed 2 little chicken nuggets there. So they're not a great source of food. And all in all, I mean, they're pretty useless. And they're kind of, I mean, they really just love staring at me. It's kind of creepy. But you can craft them into golden frog legs, which I'm going to assume are at some point going to be used for a potion of leaping. But you can already make that with glowstone, so I really have no idea what these are supposed to be used for. Currently, they do absolutely nothing. Next up, we have the Archeologist. And the Archeologist is a new type of villager that does not spawn in villages. He only spawns deep underground in little huts that kind of look like this, actually. And the Archeologist will trade for bones. As you can see, you can get 5 bones for 3 emeralds. Okay. And then you can trade 10 bones for 1 emerald. Wait a minute. Okay, but anyway, yeah, they trade in bones, which makes sense because they're archaeologists. And you can also buy shovels from them, and most importantly, you can buy their awesome looking hat. And what the hat does is that it will add fortune to any pickaxe. I think it's just fortune 1, and this stacks on top of any fortune that you might currently have on your pickaxe. So this is, first of all, looks absolutely fantastic, and second of all, I mean, it's just an extremely useful item. It only gives 1 armor as opposed to, you know, the even 2 or 3 that we get from diamond or iron. But the fact that it adds fortune to your pickaxe, I think more than makes up for it. Next up, they've despawned. But anyway, these are supposed to be the Stonelings, and we'll take a look at them in a second, but I don't want to get the spawn egg out right now. And the Stonelings are a new tameable mob that spawns deep underground in caves, and what the Stoneling does when it is tamed is that it can carry 1 item. And then it follows you around if you carry a block of smooth stone, because that's what they like to eat. And I think you can breed them, but I'm not really sure. And they drop these hearts of diamonds occasionally, which you use for the Pickerang, and you also use to tame them. So it's kind of weird. I mean, you tame them by, you know, ripping out the hearts of their brothers and sisters and feeding it to them. So these are some pretty fricked up mobs. And yeah, I mean, that's really all they do. They also spawn carrying a random item, and if you kill them, you can collect that item. So let's just take a look at them real quick. There they are, the Stonelings, and you can't, let me get a good look at their face. As you can see, they are pretty weird looking. They're big little stone cubes with arms, and they have just the weirdest looking faces. Some of them have beards, like that dude has a mustache. He has a pedo stash, actually, and a weird haircut. And this dude has a mohawk and sort of a goatee, and they all have different combinations of facial hair and hair. And as you can see, they're each carrying a different precious item. So you got an ender pearl, an ember. You guys know what these stuff are. And also, they have mob heads occasionally. And let's beat this one to death and give it stuff to us. And yeah, so honestly, these things are pretty hardcore. I mean, you feed them the hearts of their friends to make them breed, and they are apparently capable of ripping the heads straight off of zombies and creepers. So yeah, don't mess with these things. Except you can, because they don't do anything at all. We have the Dweller, and the Dweller is an invisible version of the zombie, which is completely invisible until you attack it, or it attacks you, and that's it. That's really, it's just an invisible zombie. It has slightly more armor, but that really doesn't make a big deal, and it only spawns around Y4, so like right here. And I do see them spawning on this world occasionally, because it's super flat. And I don't know if there's that one actually in here, and it's invisible, or it despawned. So that, yeah, it despawned. So yeah, it had despawned, and let's take a look at what they look like. As you can see, oops. As you can see, they are invisible until you attack them, and they just have sort of reskinned zombie texture. They have the same pants as the normal zombie, but they got a red shirt. It's way more tattered and stuff. And they have the... I'm stuck in this corner. And they... Look at me. They have the one red eye and then the one white eye. And they look pretty cool. But they're generally... they're not that big a deal. They're just slightly stronger zombies, and they only spawn deep underground. So next up we have the lovely lootable pirates. That was a weird thing to say. Anyway, so yeah, the pirates are a greenish skin of the skeleton, and as you can see, that one looks like it's vomiting. And they have these cool pirate coats on, and those cool pirate pants on, and those pretty neat pirate boots. And most importantly, they have a pirate hat. And these pirates, they will spawn on pirate ships, which are new structures generated with the Quark mod. I have literally never seen one of these. I've played with the Quark mod for probably 50 hours now, and I still haven't seen a Quark pirate ship specifically. But the pirate ships will have some loot. They spawn with things like fire charges, TNT. I'm going to go turn that auto cobble generator off. Yeah, stop that. They will spawn with TNT, fire charges, and all sorts of other stuff you might find on a pirate ship. And of course the pirates. And the pirates have, they got 20 health and they got an iron sword. So, they're pretty strong. They have the same armor as skeletons, I believe. So, like, almost none. They drop the pirate hat. And unlike the other hats added in Quark, I don't think the pirate hat does anything except look fantastic. But let me go check the wiki real quick. The hat has absolutely no function other than looking absolutely great. And it's got a nice skull and crossbones on the front there. And to be honest, it kind of looks like a Nushanka. There is no chance I pronounced that right, but you know what I'm talking about. And it's got a nice 3D model, and it only has one armor, which, it's better than nothing, but you got better things to wear on your head. God, I can't believe this despawned again. So, next up, we have the Wraith, and the Wraith is a mob that spawns in the Nether, as you can see by my beautiful Nether texturing, and, well, you might hear that the Wraith makes the sounds of other mobs, so let's just turn up the sound of friendly creatures. Yeah, you can hear it, like a pig, frogs. Now, the frogs in Quark don't actually have a sound, so I'm assuming that it is using some sort of unused sound that is in the frog file. If that's a thing, I don't know how coding works. And yeah, so you don't really hear them coming. you might just mistake them for some other mob. And when they hit you, they have 40 health, so they're twice as strong as your average mob. They will slow you, they will give you slowness too, and then they will jump back about 3 blocks, so you can't hit them again. And yeah, they are extremely annoying. They are kind of the worst. And when they are finally killed, they drop the soul bead. And if you right click for the soul bead, you get a curse. And what the curse does is that it will spawn hostile mobs. So yeah, I don't really get why you would want to do that unless you're just looking for a bit of a challenge. But the soul bead is also a pretty, well, I'm not going to say it's a useful crafting item. It has, I think, 2 crafting recipes it's used in. But, you know, it's not completely useless, and you might have to end up killing a couple of these when you're in the nether. Our next mob, and our second to last mob, well, our last mob that is actually added by Quark, is the Ashen. And the Ashen, it is absolutely blinding. Yeah, they shoot blindness arrows. They apply blindness for 2 seconds, I think, and they have a, and I really like the texture. I think these are just a reskin of some vanilla mob, and, well, I'd just say they just look great. They don't really do anything else except shoot blindness arrows, and they also only spawn around Y12, so at diamond spawning level. And you can actually see, there's one over there burning to death, that they will spawn on super flat worlds. Yeah, Ashen. We have the Witch, and what the Witch does is, well, I mean, obviously the Witch is a vanilla mob, but with Quark, go away. With Quark, the Witch gains the ability to drop their, oh come on, come back here. The Witch gains the ability to drop that sexy hat of theirs. And what the hat does is that it will give you a 50% resistant to potions of harming. I think I said that right. I'm just going to assume I did. Which makes it easier to fight witches. And this hat has a 0.0012% chance of spawning when you kill a witch. And it only spawns if you kill the witch manually. So you can't even set up a witch farm. So I mean, this is cool if you want to be like some sort of, I don't know, wizard or whatever, but otherwise, I mean, the benefit really is not worth having to kill like 6 million witches. But a great man once said, yeah, but I mean, at least you get a cool hat out of it. So yeah, that does it for the redstone and mob portions of the Quark mod, and this didn't take nearly as long as I thought it would. So I'm going to start moving into some of the tweaks. Okay, interrupting my own transition there because it did actually take as long as I thought it would. It was about 30 minutes. So yeah, I'm not going to be moving on to tweaks. This is the end of the video. Goodbye, and I will see you next time when we review the new tweaks and a couple of other special features added in the Quark mod.